After Nigeria became independent in 1960, the whole country was filled with hope. People danced on the streets. Flags were raised. Drums echoed across villages and cities. Everyone believed a new future had finally come. But nobody knew that inside this new freedom, a heavy storm was already growing. A storm that would later turn into one of the darkest moments in African history. Please, before we continue, can you hit the subscribe button, like, share and comment, thanks. In the years after independence, Nigeria was like a young child trying to learn how to walk. The leaders were trying, but the country was not at peace. Different tribes wanted to lead. Different regions felt cheated. The politicians were fighting. Corruption started growing. And slowly, trust began to break apart. Then came January 1966. Soldiers carried out a coup. They killed many political leaders. The coup was led mostly by Igbo officers, and because of that, many people in the north believed the Igbo wanted to take the whole country. Anger rose sharply. Fear spread like fire. And soon, revenge followed. Across northern cities, innocent Igbo people were attacked. Many lost their lives. Many ran away, leaving their homes, businesses, and dreams behind. They returned to the east, carrying only their pain, their children, and their broken hopes. When the eastern region saw how their people were suffering, they felt abandoned by Nigeria. They felt unprotected. They felt like strangers in their own country. And so, the eastern leader, Lieutenant Colonel Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, made a decision that shook the whole world. He declared the eastern region a new country. He called it Biafra. When the news spread, shock hit every corner of Nigeria. The Nigerian government refused to accept it. They believed the country must stay as one. They said, no part of Nigeria must break away. And just like that, two brothers became enemies. The war began in 1967. It started with strong words. Then soldiers marched. Then bullets flew. And soon, the sky of Nigeria was filled with smoke from both sides. Roads were blocked, towns were destroyed, and families were torn apart. The Nigerian side had many supporters. The British quickly backed Nigeria because they did not want their former colony to break apart. They also wanted oil from the Niger Delta, so keeping Nigeria united benefited them. The Soviet Union also supported Nigeria, sending weapons, planes, and military advisors because they wanted influence in Africa during the Cold War. Biafra, on the other hand, had fewer but passionate supporters. France quietly supported them, sending limited weapons and giving political sympathy. Some African countries like Gabon, Côte d'Ivoire, and Tanzania also recognized Biafra. Many churches and charity groups across the world supported Biafra because of the massive suffering and hunger affecting innocent children. As the war continued, Biafra became cut off from supplies. Hunger spread like a shadow. Children's stomachs became swollen. Villages cried every night. Even though the Biafran soldiers fought with unbelievable courage, they were outnumbered, outgunned, and surrounded. Radio Biafra played sad songs, telling the world their pain. Nigeria advanced slowly but steadily, taking back towns one by one. The war lasted almost 3 years. By January 1970, Biafra could no longer continue. Ojukwu fled, and Biafran officers surrendered. The war ended with over 1 million innocent lives lost, many of them children. But Nigeria did not break. After the war, the Nigerian government declared, no victor, no vanquished. They promised forgiveness. But the wounds remained deep, like scars on the nation's heart. Nigeria entered a new chapter, a chapter of rebuilding, healing, and trying to become one country again. But deep inside every tribe, the memories of that dark time never fully faded. When the gunfire finally stopped in 1970, silence fell across the land. It was a strange silence. A heavy silence. The kind that comes after too much crying. Villages were empty. Farmlands were dry. Many homes had no fathers. Many children had no mothers. Nigeria had survived the war, but the country was wounded on the inside. Rebuilding began slowly. The Nigerian government told people to return to their cities, reopen their shops, rebuild their houses and start life again. Many people tried. Many people struggled. But the pain of the war stayed in their hearts like a shadow following them. In the years that followed, Nigeria tried to stand tall again. Roads were repaired. Schools reopened. Markets came back to life. But something big had changed. Something powerful. Something that would shape the future of the country forever. Oil. Black gold was discovered in the Niger Delta. Thick, shiny, and full of wealth. Foreign companies rushed in. Money started flowing like water. The Nigerian government became rich very fast, richer than ever before. But this new wealth did not bring peace. It brought greed. It brought corruption. It brought new fights over power. Leaders started fighting for control of the oil money. Politicians argued. Soldiers began watching closely. And soon, Nigeria returned to a path it knew too well, the path of coups. In 1975, soldiers overthrew the government. Nigerians woke up again to the radio voice of a soldier saying, "The government has been removed." The country became used to it. Every few years, another coup. Another military head of state. Another promise that things would get better. Some leaders tried their best. Some leaders only cared about power. And Nigeria swung back and forth like a tree being shaken by the wind. But the people kept going. Nigerians are strong. They work, they laugh, they pray, they dance, even when life is hard. Markets stayed busy. Music grew. Cultures blended. Cities grew wider, louder. Then in the 1980s and 1990s, Nigeria entered some of its toughest years. The military ruled with a firm hand. Protests filled the streets. Journalists were arrested. Voices were silenced. Many Nigerians began to feel like their freedom had been stolen again, not by foreigners this time, but by their own leaders. In 1993, the country held an election that many believed was the fairest in its history. A man named Mashood Abiola won. Nigerians celebrated everywhere. But the military cancelled the result. Hope was crushed in one night. Darkness fell again. Protests exploded. Blood flowed. The world watched Nigeria with worry. Abiola was arrested. Many Nigerians began to fear their country would break apart again, like during the Biafran War. But the people kept pushing. They wanted democracy. They wanted their voices back. They wanted the right to choose their leaders. In 1998, everything changed. The military leader died suddenly. A new chance opened for Nigeria. And in 1999, after so many years of struggle, Nigeria finally returned to democracy. People danced like they did in 1960. Flags waved. Churches and mosques overflowed with prayers. For the second time in history, Nigeria felt the breath of freedom. But democracy did not magically fix everything. The wounds of the past were still there. Corruption was still there. Tribal tension was still there. Poverty was still there. But now, at least, the people had a voice again. A chance. A hope. And Nigeria marched into the 2000s, full of talent, full of music, full of energy. Young Nigerians started dreaming bigger. Nollywood rose. Afrobeats shook the world. Tech companies grew. Even though the country still fought with problems, the spirit of the people refused to die. Nigeria became a giant with scars, but also with courage. A land with pain, but also with power. A nation that fell many times, but always stood up again. And through it all, the story continued, shaping every child, every home, every tribe, and every future. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, share and comment.